Hi, everyone. Welcome to Poetry and Prophecies podcast. My name is Tiffany. This podcast will be centered around how our physical lives ties into our spiritual lives. As we all know, everything happens there first. Ephesians 1:3-4. And I'm also going to be shedding light on how evil spiritual beings play a part. But before we get into the episode, let's say the Lord's Prayer. You can find it in Matthew 6:9-13 or Luke 11:2-4. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So today's episode number 6 is going to be about having a slavery mindset and curses. I want to shed some light on how these curses are able to be broken. If these curses go unaddressed, what will happen is it's going to continue on with the bloodline. So these curses have to be addressed. So what happens is the Lord will wake somebody up to be alert and aware on what's happening in their family and know something is wrong. And then that person will attack the curses on the bloodline. So if the Lord is bringing awareness to it, that means he's called you to attack these curses. And even though the Lord is in control of both sides, good and evil, there are things that was brought upon the bloodline from individuals in the family that was never supposed to be, if that makes sense. The thing is, going against the Lord's word, his word says that he would visit the iniquity. People just think it's life, and they go along with life with these curses, but they're able to be broken spiritually and through the Lord. So first I want to talk about having a slavery mindset. So everyone knows that there's two sides of the spectrum here when it comes to slavery, superior and inferior. It doesn't have to be a specific color. You don't have to be of color to be inferior or Caucasian to be superior. It can go either or. Read what inferiority complex is. It says here is a constant feeling of inadequacy or insecurity in your daily life due to a belief that you are physically or mentally inferior to others. So now I'm going to read slave mentality. It says here, conditions a person to accept harmful circumstances to themselves as a natural order of things. They view their own worth through their master's eyes. They believe about themselves what they have been told to believe, whether it's true or not. So having a slavery mindset, right? Even though people are not slaves today, there's some people that walk around like they still do have slaves today, or look at people of color like they're less than. They still have this spirit on them. They still have that hatred in them, and that's been passed down. It all starts in the home, even though it started before the home was created. What people have to understand, if it's been passed down from generation to generation and you didn't see anything different, you're going to adopt these same things, even though there's spiritual aspects of these things. Physically, you're going to take on what you've been taught for the majority of it. And if you're not taking it on physically, what will happen when that spirit is in the bloodline? You're going to end up taking it on spiritually. So this is why it has to be broken, because it has legal right to continue harassing you. The Lord can't judge people correctly when they are not aware on what's going on. When you're a person, you can say of color, that adopt this slavery mindset, your parents or your grandparents have then instilled this slavery mindset in you. So what I just read was inferiority complex and slave mentality. So this has been on the bloodline. If it hasn't been broken before you, what will happen is it's going to trickle down to you, and you're going to adopt these negative traits and thinking low of yourself. Some of these things are not even of you. It's demonic entities. People need to know this. So sometimes you're coming into agreement with demonic forces and you think it's coming from you, and it's not. When you have a slave mentality, you're in bondage mentally, physically, and spiritually. So it doesn't matter what you're doing physically or where you're trying to go mentally. If you're restrained and restricted in bondage spiritually, it doesn't matter what you do in the physical, you will remain stuck. So this is why it needs to be broken spiritually and through the Lord. So I'm going to read Leviticus 26:13. It says here, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, that you should not be their slaves. And I have broken the bars of your yoke and made you walk, says erect, but also upright, meaning upright. Your head up high, you can say, not low. A lot of people are walking around with their head low, whether it's physically, spiritually, mentally. Their head is low because they see themselves as lower than other people. And what the Lord is trying to make people understand is he's already set you free. So walking around like this, it is not of him. This is something that needs to be addressed. This is something that you need to be broken free from, and it's doable. You just need to know that you're actually in bondage spiritually. When you're cursed, it's hard for you to put up any type of defenses because it's going to be broken down because of the bloodline being cursed. This is what curses do. It has control over you. Starting back, you can say in biblical days. So these are the things you can say have been passed down, right? Self-hatred, incest, rape, murder, division, witchcraft, humiliation, rejection, and addictions, to name a few. So this is stemming back from the beginning of time, right? You see it playing out every day in people's bloodline. Why do you think these things are playing out? Because people have come into agreement with these said things and gave it legal right to then run rampant. And you will continue seeing it from generation to generation. It might skip a generation and it might not, but usually you will see these things every generation. It could be all, you never know, it could be all of these things in one family. So I'm going to read Exodus 34:7. It says here, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the third and fourth generation. So it can be longer than the third and fourth generation if it goes unaddressed, if that makes sense. So it's just going to continue renewing that covenant, these evil demonic entities on a bloodline. Right here where it says keeping mercies 1,000, forgiving iniquity and transgressions and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty. So you are guilty here. Your parents are guilty. Your grandparents are guilty. Your ancestors are guilty because it goes unaddressed. So unless we address it, repenting, renouncing, denouncing, revoking, unless we do this, we are still looked at as guilty spiritually to the Lord. So this is why the Lord can still love you and you can still have a hardship here right now. So this is why you can be a good person and you're crying to the Lord about X, Y, and Z and nothing changes because you have an agreement, a covenant with the devil. You cannot serve two masters. When people grasp this and have a better understanding of what's going on, it will be a better day for them and their family. So when our ancestors opened the door to the enemy for wealth, for luck, for kids, for relationship, that has brought on these curses on the bloodline. Murdering people, raping people, having incest in the family, and, taking advantage of the people in the family, all of this stuff, witchcraft, to kill people, to get what you want, all this brings it on the bloodline. And this is when you'll see it running rampant through the bloodline and people will be doing the same thing. Once you attack these things, you're going to see a change in your bloodline. But until that is going to continue going on to your kids, kids, their kids. That's how this works, unless it's addressed. Fasting and praying. Pray for the Lord to release you and your bloodline from these curses. Since these curses have had legal right on your bloodline, you are on the wrong path. So what you have to do is pray for the Lord to realign you to his will for your life. Fasting and praying will break any stronghold, but you have to pray to the Lord to intervene, go into prayer and repent before anything. Now I'm going to talk about the slave masters and their bloodline and how they are cursed. So I'm going to read Deuteronomy 15:12-15. If your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you, he shall serve you 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And when you let him go free from you, you shall not let him go empty-handed. You shall furnish him liberty out of your flock, out of your threshing floor, and out of your winepress. As the Lord your God has blessed you, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore, I command you this today. So what people have to understand, when back in slavery, they took a lot of what they did from the Bible. But this one thing stood out to me when I was called to go over this episode here, is they kept the slaves longer than 6 years, the 7 years. They kept slaves for how long? So not everyone that is of color was slave, and not everyone that is Caucasian were slave masters. So just want to make that clear. But if your bloodline has slave masters in it and they went about treating slaves the way that they treated slaves, you automatically were born into a curse. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how high up of the ladder you are still cursed in some way, shape, or form. And if it goes unaddressed, you will continue to be cursed. The Lord needs everyone to understand that, because you have to repent, renounce, denounce, and revoke all rights that your ancestors invited into the bloodline. How horribly the slaves were treated this is why they are cursed. And this is why they will continue to be cursed. And they will continue seeing play out in their family bloodline. But they don't know that they're cursed because they think that they're blessed, right? And what people have to understand is they brought the curse upon themselves. So if they don't make it right, then this is going to be part of their judgment. This is why people have to understand, don't matter what they did in the past, like, oh, I wasn't a slave master, that was my ancestors, or I wasn't a slave, that was my ancestors. It doesn't matter. You're born into this family. So this family has been cursed because of what they've done. So they need to make it right. And I don't know if they ever will be able to make it right. It's so much time has passed and they've always been trying to underhand people of color and not give reparations, you can say. It's be an ongoing cycle because they refused to make it right. Remember when Obama was in office, he gave, I forget how many millions to, was it Germany? Because of the genocide. And he did nothing for the people of color, which he was a puppet anyway. But I'm just letting you know, everyone is going out their way to not make it right with people of color. And this will be the downfall of them. It's written, it will fall. And this is why I think that at this point, the only thing they really can do is repent, renounce, denounce, and revoke. So they can at least help their children. The Lord can't judge people correctly if they don't know. So you have to then know the information to then reject the information. So then there's no excuses at the end, if that makes sense. Going against, trying not to make it right and make people of color continue to suffer till this day will be the detriment. And I really don't believe that it can go any other way. It just needs to be said. So with the self-hatred here on the list that I have here, you see it really prevalent with some of the men of color here. You can see them on YouTube bashing women of color. It's like it brings in views. They have no morals. So because it brings in views to bash a black woman, you can say, they continue doing it. So it's like an oxymoron. They want respect, but they do things that's disrespectful. It doesn't work that way. A lot of these men, they're not speaking about it as just pinpointing what's wrong with some of the black women, you can say, or women in general today. They're speaking about it specifically bashing a black woman. So what happens is when a man, they don't have a great example of a mother, they didn't have a mother to love them or show them a woman's love. What will happen is a woman that reminds them of their mother, they're going to lash out and speak all this negative hatred towards that woman. So what you see on YouTube is bashing black women as a whole just because of bad apples. And this is where the ignorance come in. So because they have this stunted growth here from when their mother left them or didn't love them, this is why there's grown men acting like children. What you have to do as a woman of color at that, is not to feed into the negativity. A lot of these people are toxic, narcissistic, abusive. Don't give them what they want. They want to antagonize you to bring them down to their level. So you have to look at it that way. Don't take what some certain people are doing as truth. Let them do whatever they want to do. Let them go wherever they want to go. Let them date whoever they want to date. Because you're going to go wherever you want to go. You're going to date whoever you want to date. But for them to bash black women like they know all of us just shows you how ignorant they can be. Why I brought that up is because you can see the division between the two and how people are still pulling the strings in their mind. So self-hatred, inferiority complex. So the algorithm would tell them, hate black women, and they're going to do it just like slavery. So it's like, you have to look at these things as what's going on today. They don't have a mind of their own, right? So what they're going to do is just go along to get along with everybody else, like a hate train kind of thing. So pay attention to the men that's speaking out against that. Those are the important ones, right? So if you had a loving relationship with you can say dad, some women are doing the same thing. But if you had a loving relationship with your dad, like I did, my dad would be like, if I made a channel bashing men of color, I have brothers, I have uncles, I have cousins that have done everything for their children, have been great role models, built businesses, served, they've done their due diligence, and I've seen them, and I take my hat off to them all the time. I would never make a channel bashing them because I've seen otherwise. So when a man is bashing black women, that means he's never seen any good black women. And the good black women that they do see, they know they will never be able to date or be with. So it's like, why not just throw them all in the pot and degrade them all so no man will want them? It's a reverse psychology thing. So if other men are weak, say white men, Spanish men, Asian men, Indian men are weak, and they see these black men bashing black women, they're going to think that they're honestly, these are the weak ones. They're going to think that they're actually speaking truth because they're supposed to be our men, you can say. And I put these parentheses, these air quotes up, right? They're supposed to know us the most. So when other men see these wicked channels, they're going to be like, wow, what do they know? I don't know. Or maybe I should be cautious. So they just don't want you to be wanted by anybody else because they don't want you. They don't know how to love you because they've never received love from their mother. It stems back to their mother. So unless they fix those mommy issues, they will never be good to anyone, not even themselves. So they are harmful to themselves. They look down on themselves. And this is because of the lack of love. They don't know how to give love. So this is what people have to understand. So I just want to shed light on that. A healthy woman, a healthy man would never make a hate channel or speak negative about a group, their own group, in that way. They can shed light on some of the things that's going on in their group, but they would never bash them to the capacity that a lot of them are bashing us. And it's like, you can just see what it is. When you're healthy and you're healed, you know what it is. You pray for these people and you just let them go on their way. If they don't like you because of how you look, that's their problem. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with themselves. Healthy men do not behave in that manner. So they're just broken men that need healing. But YouTube isn't there. YouTube is not going to heal them. And then let's talk about the light skin, dark skin division, you can say. So the division when it comes to light skin, dark skin, it is passed down from generation to generation, you can say. Not all generations, because I don't have that kind of stuff in my family. And I have all colors in my family. But there's some people grow up in these families here. So there's some parents, grandparents will pin children against each other depending on the color of their skin. So going back to slavery, when it was field slaves and house slaves, the lighter ones were, you can say, more so toward the house or in the house, and the darker ones were in the field, right? What everyone has to understand is with the lighter ones, not saying they all were treated fairly or nice, because they weren't, but why would they not be closer to the house or in the house when that's their bloodline? That's a division that people took on because of what happened back then, but they still adopt it till the day. Of course, they're going to be more favored over a darker skin, a person that's not their kin, because that's their family, you can say. And like I said, not saying that they all were treated correctly, because they weren't either, but still they had favoritism, but that's to be expected. So to carry that on in 2024, that means you have problems and you need to deal with that. That light skin, dark skin crap, the hair texture, that is crazy. And adults are still behaving this way. So that means that's a mentality that needs to be broken. That means you are still a slave. You are still a slave. When you think about that, when you think lighter people are better than you, white people are better than you, you are still a slave, and you need to break free from that bondage. It's unfortunate that people are still walking around in that manner to today. And this is why a lot of people don't put in effort and try, because they're still slaves spiritually. It could be broken, but you have to know that you're still chained spiritually. And that's why you're not moving forward physically. And even if they weren't family and preferred over the darker skinned slave, and people have adopted that mindset today, it still doesn't have anything to do with who you are as a person. See, the thing is regarding people and whatever they claim as a preference, why is it that people are allowing that to affect their reality, if that makes sense? If people, like, take Kodak Black, for instance, when he came out and said he'd rather be with a light-skinned girl, right? Saying that they're easier to control. Both sides was offended, right? People are allowing anyone with opinion to affect their spirit. And this is the problem. It doesn't matter what anyone says or how anyone views a certain demographic of people. How do you view yourself? See, this is the thing. People lack self-love, because the more you love yourself, it really wouldn't matter what people deem as a preference, what people deem as pretty, what people deem as good or bad, whatever. It's how you view yourself. A lot of people are projecting hate, okay? And you have to know they're projecting it on you. And what you're doing is feeding into the nonsense. And this is why a lot of people are broken today, because they're putting their self last and putting what people think and how people feel above how they think and how they feel. And that's the problem. Another thing that I wanted to go over regarding the slave mentality is the word nigger. So I want everyone to think about this. Does that word hold power over you? How you would know if that word holds power over you? If someone was to call you the N-word, would you react? And how would you react? Would you put your hands on somebody? Would you end up in jail? What will happen if someone was to call you the N-word? Because what everybody needs to understand is this word still holds power. This is the thing. It's a trigger for a lot of people. And it's a trigger. Anything that can trigger you can control you. And this is why a lot of people want to use this word. Then this is why a lot of people that are not of color want to use this word. First of all, it's a forbidden word to use. So it's like a kid telling a kid they can't do something. They want to do it, right? The same thing applies to people that want to use this N word for whatever reason. And then they try to make sense out of it because people of color use it use it as a word of endearment. You can't take a word like that and turn it into a positive. It might work for other things, but because that word was created to demean and degrade people, that you cannot take it and flip it and make it a positive, because where it originated from. It originated from hate. Okay, so when you're calling each other the N-word, hey, my N-word, hey, my N-word, that's my N-word, what you're doing is labeling that person as that N-word from when it was created back then. So words are powerful. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. And if you guys are continuously giving this word life, if you're having a verbal confrontation with someone, after a while, if you're not cracking with the things that they're saying, they will call you that N-word. That's the last trick. Sometimes it's the first trick they pull out the hat, but that usually is the last trick to make someone snap, if that makes sense. So people use that as their last resort most of the time to make you act out of character, because nothing else that they were doing was working. So they know this N card here, this N word here will make you act erratically, and this is what they want, this is what they need, right? So what people have to understand, to still have this word have power over you, you have some type of work to do. And once you take the power away from the word, no one else will want to use this word. When people of color stop reacting to people using this word, stop using the word yourself, stop allowing people to trigger you when they do use this word, whether it's on you or someone else, or just using it in general, that word should hold no more power over you. It's like you keep giving this word life, it's like bringing death on someone else. So it's emotion still tied to this word, and this is the problem. And speaking things over yourself, I'm going to the plantation, all this stuff, just all this slave talk, okay? This is the problem. This is the thing you have to cut out, because the thing is, then you're just referencing yourself as a slave. If you're referencing your job as the plantation, it might be funny, or you might think that that's what to say to just be more black, but you're actually referencing yourself as a slave today in 2024 when you're going to work and you're saying you're going to the plantation. So I just wanted to shed light on that. Definitely disconnecting yourself from that N-word is first and foremost. So I think this is the last thing I'm going to touch on, the division with black girls and white girls. Let's take it to slavery again. The white girl, black girl separation. Put yourself in a white girl's shoes for a second, right? And she's married, you married, right? You're the white girl. You married to a white guy, right? And he constantly with the slave girls, whether it's to, you can say, breed them or have a relationship with them, right? Because he's fond of them. How would you feel towards that black girl? Would you like her, or would you have a problem with her? So what people have to understand, and this is where society has a lot of people's mind twisted about the jealousy. Both sides have been jealous, and still to this day jealous of one another. There's black girls that's jealous of white girls, and there's white girls jealous of black girls, right? What you have to understand is what society has brainwashed people to believe is black girls are just jealous of white girls, which that's false. I'm going to do another podcast episode with some of my experiences, but right here, too cluttered. So that has been passed down in their bloodline too. And this is why till this day, there's not all white girls and not all black girls, but I'm just talking about in general, right? So this is why some white girls will not feel comfortable when they see a confident, put together, beautiful black woman walk in the room and they're with their man. Automatically, you're an automatic threat. She don't even know why she don't like, you just came in the room and you upset her spirit. That's why. Not the extra ones. I'm talking about a woman that's confident, walking in her confidence and just minding her business. You would make her feel uncomfortable because of what has been passed down, that generational curse of jealousy in her bloodline towards you, woman of color. And the jealousy of women of color sometimes looking at white women, because those were the sought after women that were put on pedestals back then as well. So you see people, not all, but some women of color would see them as the epitome of beauty. They're in the house. They're the wife. They got the ring. They're this, they're that. You look at that like, I want to be that. I'm a slave. I want to be this. You know what I mean? So then that's passed down from generation to generation. So not only do you see these things, they also broke the family. So breaking the family, that's passed down from generation to generation. This is why there's so many broken black families today. That's not your fault either. It's just how it was set up. It's curses following a bloodline. It has to be broken spiritually. It doesn't matter how much work people put in to make it right physically. These are still curses following individuals today as a whole and individuals. If that makes sense. We have to cut each other some slack on both sides because we're operating out of generational curses till this day. And people have to focus more on loving themselves and loving one another in order to be able to overcome this stuff, because people have been brainwashed and the Lord is waking people up to who you are and who he needs you to be to complete what he's put you here to do. So this is the time that everyone needs to take heed to these things, because you cannot be who you supposed to be 100% when you still have curses attached to you. All right, guys, that's the end of the episode. I pray you found something I said today helpful. Don't forget to take a look at the description box. All my links are below. The first link is to the targeted community, which is for targeted individuals, believers, chosen ones, the spiritually gifted, and those that are set apart. I hope to see you guys in there. I love you guys. See you guys every other Friday at 8 p.m. I'll be setting a premiere, so don't forget to click notify me so you won't miss it. Until next time, have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye.